This is Daily Armenia, ＳivilNet's daily news digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia today. Senior Azerbaijani officials have reiterated that signing a normalization deal hinges on Armenia removing indirect references to Nagorno-Karabakh from its constitution. We are very close with Armenia to finalizing a peace agreement, but we need to ensure this peace is sustainable. Azerbaijani Ambassador-at-Large Elchin Amirbayov told the Korea Times newspaper in an interview published yesterday. He added, "The remaining obstacle is Armenia's constitutional territorial claim on the part of Azerbaijan. Once that is resolved, we can move forward." Meanwhile, Ceyhun Bayramov, Azerbaijan's top diplomat, also raised the issue with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan on a visit to Ankara yesterday. Ongoing claims of the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan and of brotherly Turkey in the Armenian constitution and other legislative acts, as well as Armenia's mass militarization policy, are the main threats to the peace process, Azerbaijan's foreign ministry said in its readout of the talks. That is all about a reference in Armenia's constitution to its declaration of independence from the Soviet Union, which in turn called for the unification of Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. In recent months, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and other officials have repeatedly called removing the reference a precondition to a normalization deal. However, as recently as last week, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan argued that the reference does not make the Declaration of Independence a legal part of the constitution, rejecting the need to make such a change. Continuing, Bayramov was quoted by Turkey's Anadolu news agency as saying Armenia's post-war arms deals with France, India, and other countries represent a threat to our region, and urged manufacturers to halt weapons shipments to Armenia. The Armenian government had no immediate reaction to Amirbayov's and Bayramov's latest comments. That all comes as recent weeks have seen a sharp uptick in claims by Baku of ceasefire violations by Yerevan. Most recently, allegedly earlier this morning along Armenia's border with Azerbaijan's Nakhichevan exclave. As in all recent cases, Armenia's defense ministry dismissed the claims as disinformation and reiterated an offer to create a joint mechanism to investigate such allegations. Azerbaijan has not publicly responded to that offer. In related news, Russian President Vladimir Putin called Aliyev today to discuss the normalization process, just days after he called Pashinyan for the same reason, and just more than a week after he made a rare overseas trip to Baku. Putin offered Russia's support in reaching a deal, according to a readout of the call from the Kremlin. In a speech last night to supporters in Yerevan, Archbishop-turned-protest leader Bagrat Galstanyan reiterated he is planning to organize more protests against Pashinyan next month, after a summer hiatus. "We are in the process of preparing specific steps. We are trying to move forward," he was quoted as saying by Radio Azaduchun, RFE-RL's Armenian service. He did not provide any additional detail. Galstanyan's latest comments come after a senior lawmaker from Armenia's main opposition bloc, the Armenia Alliance, expressed continued support for him. Days before that, lawmakers from the bloc gathered with party leaders and former President Robert Kocharyan to discuss policy and strategy, though few details from those closed-door talks have been made public. The opposition had previously named Galstanyan its preferred candidate to replace Pashinyan, even though Armenian law bars dual citizens like Galstanyan, who also holds a Canadian passport, from high office. In other news, an appeals court yesterday shortened the detention period of Armen Ashotyan, a prominent opposition figure, raising expectations he may be released imminently. With the new ruling, Ashotyan's detention is set to end in mid-September. Ashotyan, a vocal critic of Pashinyan and a former minister in ex-President Serge Sarkisyan's government, was indicted in November 2022 and later detained on charges of abuse of power and money laundering. The charges, which Ashotyan strongly denies and considers politically motivated, stems from his time as board chairman of Yerevan State Medical University. During Ashotyan's tenure, investigators say, the university suffered upward of $100,000 of damages as a result of controversial land land deals. In addition, investigators allege Ashotyan embezzled nearly $500,000 from the university. Prosecutors later added obstruction charges to Ashotyan's indictment. The government denies any political motivation in pursuing the case, which remains ongoing. And finally, the ＳiviLNet number of the day is 4,517. That's because we are now in the year 4517 on the traditional Armenian calendar, which started earlier this month with the holiday of Navarsart. It corresponds to the number of years since the founding moment of the Armenian people, the victory of the Patriarch Haik over the giant king Bel, as questionably calculated by a scholar in the 19th century. In ancient times, Navarsart was the biggest annual celebration and feast for Armenians. It also included athletic games and the Vardavar Water Festival. And as always, please follow ＳiviLNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.